let's do a real world physics problem. This is actually a problem from MythBusters. So if you've ever watched MythBusters, they were testing a myth, and it had to do with a person falling out of a plane and surviving by landing on something. And so they wanted to test this with their dummy, Buster. And so they took Buster in a crane to drop him, or it, so that it could impact with the ground and they could measure forces and stuff like that. But the question was, how high would you need to drop Buster or a human so that they reach terminal velocity before they hit the ground? And the answer is infinity, but there's a better answer too. How high would you have to drop so they're 99% terminal velocity, right? So we're going to do that. It does involve some numerical calculations in Python, but that's what makes this so much fun. Okay, so let's talk about a falling person. So let's say the person has a mass of 75 kilograms, and let's say that terminal velocity is 55 meters per second. So if you've been skydiving before, terminal velocity is somewhere around there. It depends on the mass of the person, the shape of the person, and things like that. But that's a pretty good starting estimate right there. So as that person falls, right when they start off, they have just the gravitational force acting on them. And then down here at the bottom, right before they hit the ground, they have a drag force and a gravitational force. And in the y direction, F net would be equal to the drag force minus the gravitational force, and that would be equal to 0. Terminal velocity is when those two forces are the same and they no longer speed up. Okay. So the first thing that we can do is to use this value of terminal velocity to get some of the parameters that we need for our drag force. So we're going to say the drag force has a magnitude that looks like this: 1/2 rho a c v squared. So that's the number 1/2. That's the density of air. That's the area of the person, so how big they are. And that's why if you hold your arms out like this or you tuck in like that, you're going to have a different terminal velocity. So we're doing this. C is a drag coefficient that depends on the shape, and that's the velocity. So all of this stuff doesn't change, right? When a person's falling in this position, all those are constant. The density of air changes a little bit, that's true. But let's just say it's constant, okay? So we don't really even care about all the individual values. We just want these as one thing. So let's say F drag is equal to some constant k times v squared, and we want to find that constant k. So up here, I can say k v terminal velocity squared minus mg is equal to 0. So k is going to be equal to mg over the terminal velocity squared. So we have that number over here. So let's go ahead and put k is going to be equal to mg over vt squared. And we don't even need to know what that is right now. Okay. Now we need to do the work of what happens in between here and here. So let's just write down a generic expression for the forces on this falling person. So here's the person, or dummy, right? Because Buster's a dummy. What is Buster? It is a dummy, but it was a crash test dummy. It's a crash test dummy. That's what it is. Okay. So we have the gravitational force pulling down, and then at some point we have a drag force, which this is before terminal velocity, so it's not quite the same. So I can say F net is going to be equal to k v squared minus mg, and that's ma. So we're doing this in the y direction. That's all that matters. Okay. So I have the drag force pushing up, which depends on the velocity. It doesn't matter that the velocity is down, negative velocity because we're squaring it. And then I have the gravitational force. So I can solve this for the acceleration. I get a is k v squared over m minus g. Now, the problem here is that the acceleration changes the velocity. But when the velocity changes, since the acceleration depends on the velocity, the acceleration changes. So you can't use kinematic equations or anything like that to find how fast they're going as a function of time because it changes. Non-constant acceleration. The kinematic equations assume that we have a constant acceleration, so that won't work. But what we can do is to cheat. Again, We're cheating. Let's cheat by saying, let's just pick a very small time interval of 0.01 seconds. Now, the size of our time interval depends on our situation. This is actually probably too small. We don't need it that small, but I like to have it that small anyway. We can explore changing that just a little bit. So during that small time interval, I have the skydiver start off right here with v1. I'll leave it as a value. And then down here at the end of that time interval, they have a velocity v2, they have a position y1, they have a position y2, and this is a time interval of delta t. So very short time interval. It's so short that this acceleration doesn't really change that much. Okay? So if the acceleration doesn't change that much, we can assume it's constant. And if the acceleration is constant, then I can use the definition of acceleration to find this change in velocity. So remember, we defined acceleration as the change in velocity with respect to time. So using these values right here, that would be v2 minus v1 over delta t. And now I can multiply both sides by delta t, and then add v1 to both sides, and I get v2 v1 plus a delta t. I shouldn't even do that, because now my equation's not right. So I can take that short time interval, calculate the acceleration, and using my velocity at the beginning of the interval, find the velocity at the end of the interval. Now I can do the same thing with position. So I can say, because I do need to know the position because I want to find out how far they fall. So let's say v2 is delta y over delta t. So this is the definition of velocity, but we're going to use the final velocity, which is cheating. We're double cheating. We're cheaters that cheat. That's what we're doing. But again, I can write that as y2 minus y1 over delta t, multiply both sides by delta t, add y1, I get y2, y1 plus v2 delta t. So what I've done is find the new position and velocity for the falling buster after 0.01 second. Not very useful. If I want to do it again, I can do it again using the new v2 as my initial velocity and find my velocity after the second time interval. And I can just keep doing that in all those time intervals. Okay. So step 1, calculate the acceleration. Step 2, update the velocity. And then step 3, update the position. And they just keep doing it over and over and over again. And nobody has time for that. So we're going to do it with Python. So let's get to it. Jumping over here to Python. Okay, we're going to need a graph. I'm going to go ahead and make a graph. So to make a graph in VPython, web VPython, I'm going to give it a title. So there's an object called graph. And we can have, let's just give it an X title of, I'm going to start off with position versus time, and then we'll change it later. So I'm just going to say y as a function of m. And then I'm going to say t, that's my y title. And then my x title is going to be equal to time. And then I'm going to give it a width of 400 wrap and a height, spell it right, of 200. Now, in order to make the graph, I also have to have a function to plot, and I'm going to call it f1. G-curve is a type G-curve. I'm going to give it a color, spell it right, color.blue. Okay. Now let's just start entering our values. G is 9.8, M is 7.75, VT is 55, right? That's my terminal velocity. Now I can use that to find K. So K is going to be M times G divided by VT squared. Notice that I don't actually even know that number or need that number. I just need K, right? So I didn't print it. I don't really care about it. It's just there. Now, also in Python, we have to explicitly include operations. You can't just say mg, you have to say m times g. And then for raised to the power in Python, it's star star. So don't use the hat. The hat is not in Python. Okay. Now I also need my initial conditions. So I'm going to have Buster start at y equals 0. So as Buster falls, Buster will be at more negative values. So we can, at the end, we can say whatever that negative value is, I can just shift up that much to the starting point. And I'll know how high I had to drop Buster. And then Buster's initial velocity is 0. And then I have t equals 0, and my time step of 0.01. Okay. Now what we want to do is to do a loop. So how long should Buster fall for? We don't know, so let's just pick. Let's just get it working first. So let's say while t is less than 5 seconds. I don't know, 5 seconds. Seems like a long time it is, but that's fine. And I want to do number 1, calculate the acceleration. So I already have that equation up here. I'm just going to retype that calculation, which comes from the net force. A is going to be equal to k times v squared divided by m minus g. That's the exact same equation we had up there. Okay. Now once I have my acceleration, I can update my velocity. V equals v plus a times dt. That's the exact same thing I had up there. It looks like it. We don't have subscripts because we're not making a bunch of variables. Instead, what we're going to do is to update the variable that we have. This takes the value of velocity, adds a times dt, and makes that the value of the velocity. So we don't have to update it. Okay. Now we don't have to make a new value. We are updating it. Now I'm going to update the position. Just like before, that's what we had before. Y is the initial y plus a times v times dt. And then finally, if I don't update time, I will be stuck in a loop, and that's just awkward. Okay. Now what I want to do is to add a data point to my graph. So f1.plot t, y. And let's run this thing and see what happens. See, it's not that bad of a code. There's not that much there. There we go. So falling, it looks like a parabola, right? It's kind of hard to tell, but over here it seems like it's much straighter than it should be, which is good because we want it to reach terminal velocity. Okay. Now, what we could do, the simplest way to do this is say, okay, I'm going to print v final divided by v terminal, the ratio of the final to terminal velocity, and that's going to be equal to I can just say v, because once I get done with that loop, then whatever's left over is v is my final velocity, and divide that by v terminal. And so let's just see what happens at the end. What percent of terminal velocity have we made? And let's do this too. Print y equals y meters. The other one didn't have units because it's a ratio. So here I'm at 70%, you can't see that, 70% of terminal velocity after 100 meters. Okay, so that's pretty high. If you get a crane 300 feet, that's about 100 meters. Then dropping it would reach 70% of terminal velocity, and maybe that's good enough. Maybe it's not. So let's just run it for a little bit longer. Now, notice that if I run it for 1 second more, I'm not going to get that much more terminal velocity because that 1 second, I'm going to travel a lot further distance, right? So if I increase by 1 second, I'm going to have to increase my height by a lot more. So let's increase this to 6 seconds. And there's nothing wrong with just changing it up like this. You don't need a cool trick to calculate these things. You don't have to have a special function. Just do it the way that makes most sense to you. It's your program. So here we're at 79% of terminal velocity, right? So each additional second gains you less and less of a percent. But now we're at 151 meters, right? So a lot higher. So let's just go all out and say 10 seconds. %, of terminal velocity, and I'm at 345 meters. You do not want to crane that high. I think what happened, the MythBusters dropped Buster in many different situations. One time I think they used maybe a helicopter, one time they used a balloon or something, but you know, it's really hard to reach terminal velocity. Okay. If you want, we can, and let's plot velocity as a function of position. That way we can make a good comparison there. So I'm actually going to do the following. Let's do, so let's change this y title to velocity, meters per second, and this is position y in meters. And I'm going to make two curves. F2 is G curve, color equals color dot red. So in that second curve, what I'm going to do is plot the terminal velocity. So down here, the first one, I'm going to plot y, and I'm going to put this as, they're both negative. I'll just leave it, that's fine. I'm going to put them both as negative. I want them to be positive values. Okay. And then F2 dot plot, I'm going to plot negative y and VT, the terminal velocity. That way we can see how close we're getting just kind of graphically. I think that'll work. And that something bad happened. F2 Polito is not a function. That's why something bad happened. F2 plot. It's okay to make errors. There we go. Like that a lot. So here's we're speeding up and falling, and we're approaching terminal velocity, but we don't quite get there. You'll never quite get there. Let's change one more thing. Right on here, you'll notice that our we're at 94% of terminal velocity, and I used a 0.01 time interval. What if I did 0.1? Because that's actually a lot of time. So I still get about the same value. So that's one of the checks you can do for how small your time interval needs to be. If your value doesn't change significantly, then it could be bigger. So we made it bigger, and we got a good answer. Okay, so there you go. That if you're going to do a MythBusters and drop Buster from a certain height, now you can find out if I want. This would be good to make as a ratio of terminal velocity, but if I want Buster to reach 40 meters per second, I can just mouse over right there, 40 meters per second, 113 meters high, where you would have to drop Buster. And there you go. Real world problem. Talk to you later.